Hi, it's me again, Rabbi David Eisenberg, with this week's sermon for Parashat Vayikra. I'd like to start today first by wishing Chaim Aruchim long life to our administrator Wendy on the passing of her uncle, as well as long life to our administrator Petra on the passing of her father-in-law, and to Adrian Rodriguez Pereira long life on the passing of his father. In thinking about this coronavirus, in thinking about how we're going to get on and how we're going to move on from this, and what are we going to learn from it, I found that there was a very important message that this week's Sedra brings to us, and I'd like to share that message with you today. This week's Parasha is Parashat Vayikra. Vayikra is one of those Parashas that are very, very difficult for the novice and even for the expert to learn. Because at the end of the day, Parashat Vayikra deals with karbonos. It deals with offerings. And what kind of offerings do we bring nowadays? And can we really start to understand those offerings? Can we put ourselves in the mindset? Can we even understand what the focus or what the purpose of these were? So yes, there are many explanations and many things that we can learn from them and many things that are discussed as far as these offerings are concerned. But I think the offering that I want to discuss and the thought that I want to discuss today has not so much to do with the actual offering. Because many of the offerings were for sins or for things that we had done wrong, and the question becomes, how does a person bring himself to bring an offering? And there's only one answer to that, and that is introspection. When a person starts to look inside themselves and starts to say, you know what? Maybe the status quo, maybe the things I were doing wasn't right. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe my priorities weren't where they were supposed to be. And maybe I need to refocus my mind. Then and only then is he ready to come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is he ready to come to Hashem with a carbon, with an offering, and to say to Hashem, I was wrong. I'm bringing you this offering here in order for me to show you my regret and to want to change and to mend my ways. And I think there's a very important message over here for all of us. And that is, whilst we cannot bring an offering, what we can do is can have that introspection. And what we must do is have that introspection. Because introspection helps us to see things in perspective. It helps us to see a purpose in certain things, and it helps us change around the things where maybe we are making mistakes. And whilst Corona has been a very difficult time and a very difficult thing for all of us, it has afforded us a lot of time for introspection. Introspection about our priorities, introspection about the time that we spend doing certain things, introspection about our loved ones, introspection about our health and not taking it for granted. There are so many things that we can think about when we think about Corona, and that will help us to then focus and be happier people. And I'd like to add to this one other Dvar Torah that I heard last night, which I thought was a beautiful Dvar Torah and a brilliant insight. This was said over by Rabbi Melech Biderman, and Rabbi Melech Biderman said this in the name of the first Gerer Rebbe. He said that when we read the Tochacha, when we read the rebuke that's given to the Jewish people, we read in the middle of the entire rebuke, this is in Parashat Kisava if you want to look it up in Shishi, in the middle of the entire rebuke we read the following verse. Do you know why this has befallen you? This has befallen you because you have not served Hashem happily, Meirov Kol, from all the goodness that you had. And he asked the question, if you want to tell me why this tochacha happens, if you want to tell me why this is going on, why don't you tell it to me either in the beginning or in the end? In the beginning you should say, you should know the following thing is going to happen because you weren't happy in the way you serve God. Or tell it to me in the end. The following thing happened to you, whatever I discussed, because you didn't do what you were supposed to. Instead, smack in the middle of the entire thing, we say, Tachas asher lavatos Hashem elokecha b'simcha u'tov levav. So the Gerer Rebbe says a very beautiful insight. He said, before, most people wouldn't see things coming. Nobody would have seen this coming. Nobody would have seen the problems, the tzaras, the tragedies, and everything else that would have come through this. Or almost nobody. Afterwards, so many of us have gone through tzaras. So many of us have gone through problems and tragedies, etc., etc. But in looking back and in retrospect, we can say, you know what? It was all for the best. We did it. it was hard, we made it through, it's okay. But what happens in the middle? That's really where you can start to distinguish yourself. What happens when you're in the middle of the entire thing? Are you going to moan and groan and say things are no good, etc., etc.? Or are you going to be able to see the lessons whilst you're going through it? And that's what the Tochacha is trying to tell you. You didn't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with happiness during. Afterwards, it's always easy to look back. Look at things, how they're happening during, and start taking the messages whilst you're going through it, not after you went through it. So people will say, you know what? Please God, soon this will end. Please God, we'll be able to come back to shul soon. When I come back to shul, I'll appreciate shul so much more. I'll appreciate davening with my community so much more. No, don't wait till that happens. Appreciate it now. People will go back and will say to themselves, you know, I really enjoyed spending that time with my family. Maybe not having to work as hard. But don't say that once you go back to full-time work. Now, today, start appreciating the extra time that you can spend with your family. You can have that introspection and you can start to change your perspective and you can start to see that there is so much positive as well within all the negativity. And you can decide where you want to focus, and that's part of introspection. Do you want to focus on the negative? Do you want to focus on the tsaros? Do you want to focus on the trouble and everything that has happened to us from this virus? Or do you want to see the positive? Because if you want to, you can find the positive. Everything will have a silver lining, even if it's very, very thin. And that's what this week's Parashat teaches us about the Korbanos. Start that introspection. And start it now. Start it today. Don't wait till this is over to start to think, maybe I should change my life around. Today you can make those changes. Today you can already start appreciating those things. And today you can start having those thoughts. And if we have those thoughts starting today, changing our lives, by the time this is finished, we will be different people. We don't have to wait till the end of it to be different people. We can be different people today, and we can be better people today. And so that is maybe the lesson for this week. Wishing you all a very good Shabbos, missing you all, and looking forward not after recording these things anymore, but instead to see our shul as full and as beautiful as it always was, with all of you here. Wishing you all a very good Shabbos.